This is a WMUR Commitment 2024 special in partnership with the New Hampshire Institute of Politics. Conversation with the candidate. And now, Marianne Williamson.
Hello and welcome to our Conversation with the Candidate series. I'm Adam Sexton. Our guest this time is Democratic candidate Marianne Williamson. Tonight we'll be getting to know the presidential candidate and where she stands on key issues. At the start of our show, I will be asking the candidate some questions, and then after a break, we'll have our studio audience ask their questions in a town hall format. But before we begin with that, let's take a quick look at the candidate's biography. Marianne Williamson was born in Texas in 1952 and went to public school in Houston. She spent 2 years at Pomona College in Claremont, California, and then began speaking to small groups about a set of books called A Course in Miracles, including at the Philosophical Research Society in Los Angeles. Williamson then became involved in helping with the AIDS crisis, facilitating counseling and support groups, and the creation of Project Angel Food, a meals service for ill and dying homebound people that she says has now delivered more than 14 million meals. In 1992, she published her first book called A Return to Love, Reflections on the Principles of A Course in Miracles. She was invited to be a guest on the Oprah Winfrey Show, and after that, the book went on to be the 5th largest selling book in the U.S. that year. She has published 4 #1 New York Times bestsellers. Williamson ran for Congress in California in 2014 and for the Democratic nomination for president in 2020. Marianne Williamson, thanks for joining us again on Conversation with the Candidate.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, so you know the routine here. We'll ask you a few questions first, and we want to start with this very recent Supreme Court decision on affirmative action. The majority of the court holding essentially that it is a violation of the Equal Protection Clause to have admissions preferences in colleges. So given this decision, even though this is more of a state issue sometimes with public universities and colleges, what as president would you do about this?
Do you mean about that particular decision?
Well, not necessarily the decision, but the policy. Is there anything you would like to change?
Of course, you have here in New Hampshire, you have one of your highest rates of tuition in order to get into college. The United States citizens should have what they have in every other advanced democracy, and that is tuition-free college at public colleges and universities and tech schools. And we had that basically until the 1960s and 70s. There were fantastic public systems, Florida, Texas, California, for instance, where people could go and get the highest quality higher education at either tuition-free or near tuition-free. If you look at a country, let's say like Australia, where or in Germany or any of these advanced democracies, you can go to school as high as your achievement level will take you, your own work will take you. Then, when it gets to be the time that you're making enough money and that it wouldn't impinge upon your your ability to thrive, the government starts taking some of that money out of your paycheck every month or every year. And that's what we should have here. Just like universal health care, just like paid family leave, just like a guaranteed living wage. We should have the same rights that they have in every other advanced democracy, and that includes tuition-free college.
This Supreme Court, when we talk about affirmative action, they're also ardent defenders, at least the majority is, of the Second Amendment and gun rights. I'm curious, as president, what you might do to try to find a way around the constitutional issues presented by the Second Amendment, specifically with something like voluntary gun buybacks. How much would the Williamson administration be willing to spend to get an AR-15 off the streets, for instance?
As much as it takes. You know, the problem is not the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment is fine. The problem is the greed of the gun manufacturers. The problem is the gun lobby, the NRA. The vast majority of Americans, including gun owners, want to see more common sense gun laws. This is not a Second Amendment issue. Second Amendment issue is just a canard that is created by very greedy people. And I would do whatever I could do within the purview of the powers of the presidency in order to make our society safer. It is absolutely absurd that a young couple with their little child can't feel safe going to the farmer's market because somebody might have not only an AR-15 but a loaded AR-15 across their shoulder. I'm concerned not just about the rights of the gun owner, I'm concerned about the rights of that young couple.
Turning to this primary, there is dissatisfaction out there among Democrats with President Joe Biden, but polls largely show people in the Democratic Party largely sticking by him. So what is your message to those who might be on the fence, the persuadables, to try to convince them that they should switch to a different president?
I don't think that the president is a strong candidate for 2024. He won in 2020. All credit is due there. This is going to be a very, very different race this time. And the president's approach is a very incremental one. It seeks to make life better for people, but I don't think it in any way speaks to the deep level of human despair. People's lives are falling apart. So this PR term, Bidenomics, we're doing better, let us finish the job, is in direct contradiction to the visceral experience of the majority of Americans. 85 million Americans are either uninsured or underinsured. Putting GoFundMe pages up on the internet to pay for life-saving operations. Less than half of our seniors live on $25,000 or less a year. A third of our workers live on less than $15 an hour. Half of them cannot find a place to live in this country, and a living wage in any big city in this country is 24 or 25. What you have in the Granite State is a real microcosm. Whether it has to do with the breast cancer rate, the general cancer rate, the opioid addictions, we're pretending, the political elite wants us to pretend that we don't see what we're all seeing, because they don't want to support the kind of agenda that would actually address the deeper economic roots of so much of that despair, because that would offend their corporate donors. My candidacy represents an agenda of a new beginning, a new economic beginning, fundamental economic reform. As I said, representing things that the majority of Americans want and that are considered moderate positions in every other advanced democracy. The American people have been trained to expect too little and to limit our political imaginations, and it leaves millions and millions, even the majority of Americans. According to a CNBC poll report, 70% of Americans say they live with chronic economic stress. 60% of Americans living paycheck to paycheck, unable to absorb an unexpected $400 expenditure. Don't vote for someone who will just perpetuate this system. I don't even think the Democrats will win in 2024 if we don't say to the American people, we will give you something better.
Okay, let's get to those town hall voters right next door in Studio B. Coming up after the break, we will bring our studio audience into this conversation. Stay with us.